Welcome back to Badger Outdoors. It's just been peeing with rain, but I've got to get out. I didn't get out last weekend and I go out pretty much every week for a wild camp, so it was rain or shine to this time. I was going to be doing a video on night vision. Had all the kit ready to bring out, but with all the rain and wet, my priority is really going to have to be this time is going to have to be getting a fire going, because the only way I'm going to be cooking tonight or eating tonight is if I cook something and if I get a fire going, and everything is soaking wet. Been three days worth of rain. I'm staying on around not actually here. This is what I would call a base camp. It's basically a load of kids that build, and they built a whole load of mountain biking, downhill jumps and all sorts of things around here. Exactly what kids should be doing, should be out enjoying outdoors, and they built some ramps and things. This is all forestry commission land, so I don't think the forestry people really care at all about it, as long as the trees aren't damaged. There is some lashings that are up there. There's some old tarps that are down there. I don't necessarily approve of that, of leaving stuff around, you know, the fire grates, and as long as they're not cutting down new stuff. And here I don't think they are. It looks like it's probably all dead standing or something like that, and there is plenty of dead wood around here. So I've got there's another base camp which is further along, and I don't know who's set that up, but that's got another problem which I don't approve of, but which I'll show you. But it's a much nicer location. I'm going to head back down there and along the trail, and then back up to the one that I'm going to. That stream is a stream that I grew up playing in, although about 8 miles down that way at the bottom of my house. It literally starts about 100 yards up there. Right, here we are, base camp 2. Head up there and show you around. Right, here we are. I'll give you a quick look round. However, we've had some devastation. I think the wind has thrown this wall down. To be quite honest, I'd rather not have the wall. I'd rather look out over the forest and see who's coming to get me. I think someone's been here not too long ago, because there are a couple of things that different. That stump there, someone's burnt it. It's just things like that just piss me off. But the thing that really hacks me off is that if you look, so someone has cut live plants, and there are all of those sorts of plants, some sort of rubbery plant, and they're all growing up around there, and someone's gone in there and just hacked it all down just to make themselves a little bit of a shelter, which I think is a bit of a shame, if I'm honest. The road is just up there, so I'm not far from the road, probably about 200 meters, and then down there is a track which goes along the bottom. And if you look up here, it's not obvious. You can sense that something is up here, but you can't tell what it is. But I do need to clear that out. What sort of time we got now? Okay, so it's 4:30. I'd really like to be start getting dark about 6:30. I've got a couple of hours, but this is going to take me a bit of time to clear up, and then I've got to get some wood, and everything is soaking wet, so it's not going to be ideal. I've got to be honest, I've got quite a bit of work to do, and then I need to get my tarp up, because I know more rain is coming in this evening, and having a tarp up high, ideally high over the fire, would be great. It's my older camouflage D/D 3x3 DD tarp 3x3. It's old, but it's nothing wrong with it, so I don't want to damage it. But if I can get it quite high up, it might be good to have the fire under that. And I'll just go and do a scout around the area. Either someone's been very sick, or that's a very recent chili con carne. So someone has been definitely camping here since I came last, and I only came last weekend. So last weekend I came out and did another one of my recce's. Just too wet, everything is so wet. I don't know how I'm gonna get a fire going if I'm really honest. You know, I'm a keen amateur with almost everything to do with bushcraft and wild camping. Well, I'm maybe a bit more than an amateur with wild camping because I've done quite a lot of it now. I reckon I've probably done, I don't know, 120, 30, 40 nights out. So I'm fairly comfortable with it, and I suppose I've never had an issue with lighting a fire, but when it's soaking wet, that might be a different matter altogether. No good, far too boggy. And one thing you definitely don't want to be doing is hammock camping in a forest where you've got conifers like this, and then you've got a stream running down, and that's what happens. So it's just not worth it. Conifers, the roots of conifers are just really shallow. So yeah, they go down real easy. Anywhere that's boggy, I'll just stay well away from there. And even here is a little bit dodge, because if these things here, particularly, did I just say dodge? That's really bad. Particularly, you know, for example, these two here, if they went down, they're probably going to go down that way, which is out towards where I'm sleeping. So it isn't ideal, and there has been a lot of rain recently. It's going to be good for Fatwood. Look at this, all dripping. I can see the sap dripping down there. This one here, that'll be good if I can get it there. Let's cut that off. I reckon that'll be thick with it. Right, that's done. So we're relatively clear now. Got my little fire pit there, so I'm happy with that. I just put the wood over here. This was standing up, resting up, so it was left on that pole. It was left resting up like those two. In fact, I'll take those two down as well. So the last thing I want those is coming down on me with a bit of wind. So I'll stick these down here as well. That's relatively dry, so that's going to be my firewood for tonight. Everything else I've just moved away on top of itself, so that'll hopefully keep it off the ground, and someone can use that again for a fire. But I quite actually like being able to look out there over the forest, if I'm really honest. With the fire here, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go diagonal from that over there across to there. I think that'll be fine. Tie back over there, and then tie off somewhere over here. Maybe get some one up and tie it up there, just to, and then yeah, stick a pole out here. So I'm going to have the hammock between these two as well, so if I do a diagonal with a 3x3, then that should be absolutely fine. Next, good old, everyone in the UK wild camping has one of these. I don't use it often. I normally use the lightweight one, which is very similar but half the size, and it's a 3x2.9. So, and it's a lot lighter, but for any rough tough stuff I prefer bringing this thing out. That's a drama getting that up. So the wind is coming right in this way, straight into the camp. I don't know why it suddenly swung round. I wasn't expecting that, and you can see it's just ballooning the tarp right up. So I've got those three ends on, but this one here, I tried pegging it into the ground and it wouldn't go. So luckily in my everything bag I've managed to got some spare 550 paracord onto the alien there, and then down to a trucker's hitch onto that fur. So I think the next little job for me is process the wood. I think I'll then get on with the with getting the hammock in. I think the hammock will go okay. I'm reckoning it's going to go from this corner up there on that tree, down under there onto that tree, and I reckon because this is a 3x3 and I'm diagonal, then that should be, I don't know, 4.3 meters, something like that, which should be enough for the tarp if I'm going for the hammock. Good, much nicer just having the view down through there, but I'm more than happy with that. What a fantastic view. I'll have the fire down here, My head will be, where's my head? There is a house just down there, which if we talk about axes and first aid and things like that, that's always good to know what's around you. So I've got a house there. Hopefully there'll be some lights on later on so I'll know that someone's in. And then if I carry along the path that way, it hits the road very quickly. So if I did cut myself with the knife, the axe and the saw that I've got, then I've got, anyway, maybe talk about that later if I can get the rest of this lot done. That is just oozing. It's oozing out of here. Yeah, look at that Fatwood heaven. That piece, absolutely loaded with it. So I'll be using that tonight. Beautiful. Don't use this much. It's one of those things that I bought when I first got into doing all of this and going out to the woods and wild camping in the woods. You watch Joe out in Canada and he heads off into the woods with an axe and some underpants and that's it. Into the winter and into Canada, 2 hours away from anywhere, and he's off there with his axe. I can only imagine what I would do to myself. But anyway, so I thought, oh, what the hell, I'm gonna get an axe. You know, clearly I need an axe and a knife and all those things. One of the first things I did was buy an axe. I did a fair bit of research, and it is a very nice axe, and I've sharpened it really nicely. But I don't really get much chance to use it because wherever I go somewhere, I'm doing stealth camping really, so an axe just makes noise, and I found nothing that I can't do with a good silky saw. However, today I thought, you know, I'm going to take out my axe and just have a little bit of a practice with it. But playing around with axes in the woods, particularly when you're on your own, them's the risks you take to do a bit of wild camping. Particularly on your own when you've got no one nearby to help out. Right, so I'm fairly set up now, just going to process this wood. And I've got a dry space to do it in if the rain comes down again, because it was torrential earlier, but I think that's enough of doing the wood. Splitting those, I'm not very good with an axe, I've got to be honest, but I'm getting better. I do axe work at home. I've got a bigger forest axe at home which I split wood for. I don't really use this size very often, but when I do, I've learned that I don't actually use it properly, and that having a short handle yet standing up with it is actually a really bad thing to be doing. But I learned that a while back. I still have to remind myself though. But coming out to the woods with all this sharp stuff, I mean, this silky saw has shown me who's boss a number of times. Axe, I mean, if you hurt yourself with this, you're probably going to chop halfway through your thumb or something like that. So far I've just had a few cuts and breaks and things like that, so nothing too bad. But the axe, you can just imagine the damage you can do with this. I mean, this is going to be a major bleed. You know, this is going to be a loss of a limb, a loss of fingers, possibly the loss of a limb, major bleed, or possibly your loss of life. You know, and with a knife, I've sort of learned that, you know, you need to be cutting away from you all the time, cutting away from you, never cutting in anywhere near your legs, certainly. But I mean, these things could easily give you some sort of arterial bleed. And the safest place for this knife is in the sheath. So as soon as I finish with it, it goes in the sheath and gets locked. Safest thing for this thing is to be left at home, if I'm really honest. But yeah, always fold it up. And then, as I've said before, I've got this little bit of elastic on the silky because it doesn't lock itself, and I make sure it's locked like that. And you can still nick yourself on the blades in here, so still be careful with it. And an axe, yeah, put it into some wood or leave the cover on it. But again, the danger with that is when you're swinging it around. And so these sort of items, if you go into the woods, particularly if you're going in on your own, are really dangerous, let's be honest. Now if I was 2 hours walk away from anywhere, I was on my own in the woods and I was processing this, maybe after a hard day at work and it's starting to get dark, yeah, it's going to happen, you're going to hurt yourself. So the first thing to do is to learn how to use these things and do it safely. Don't do it after beers, and you're always thinking what's the backstop of this. And my backstop years ago used to be my legs, stupidly, so I'm very wary of this now. And again, with a knife, you're always thinking, where's it going to go through to? The next thing is, if you are going to have an accident, is how you're going to look after yourself. My body is full of blood. At my size, it's about 6 litres of blood. So a bleed could be a capillary bleed, which will just be oozing dark blood, and that's relatively easy to deal with. And to deal with that, I've just got my standard first aid. I've got a load of dressing in here that I can deal with that and wrap it up. So that's a capillary. But then if you go into, you cut a vein could be relatively low pressure, but it could be high pressure. So anything that's high pressure, you're then into quite serious blood loss. So, and then going up into your arteries, which would be a very light blood. And for that, for any sort of big bleed, I've got a different kit which I'll show you, which I've now started using much more regularly. Now I've started doing some homework on it, and I'll be honest, you know, I'm a basic first aid trained a while back. I've gone out of date, but it's my sort of hobby at the moment, is just reading up and watching videos from people that I trust who have done this in the military, in A&E, who just go through and just give you a few hints and tips on how to use the gear. But yeah, so if I can start bleeding, let's say I get a big bleed going, I've got up to about 1.2 litres of blood I can lose, and in that time I've got to deal with it and stop the bleed. If I go past 1.2 litres up to maybe 2.5 litres, then I could go into a medical shock, hypovolemic shock, and if I go into that, then I can't deal with it. Now I'm still able to live. I could live up until about 3 litres of lost blood. So in that period when I'm going from maybe 1.2 down to 3 litres of blood that's being lost, I could have gone into shock, and I'm now unable to deal with and help myself, because I'm on my own. No one's there to help me, and I'm just going to bleed out. So I'm going to bleed out pretty quick, and then when I get to 3 litres, then that's it. When 3 litres are gone, even if I'm in A&E, they're probably not going to be able to save me. So how long does it take to get to losing those 3 litres? I watched a great video from the grey bearded Green Beret. If you ever want to watch anything to do with being out and about in the woods, then watch him. He's fantastic. He used to do this in Afghanistan and deal with you know, an immediate responder to incidents. He has a great video on bleeding and blood loss. So yeah, I would recommend watching him. But basically, to get rid of 3 litres of blood can take as little as 30 seconds for someone of my sort of size, which means that going down to 1.2 litres may only take sort of 12 seconds, which 12 seconds to deal with a bleed is pretty scary stuff, really. So if ever I'm going away with either of these two now, then as well as bringing my basic first aid, I bring this. So this is my bleeds kit. You notice I've got a whistle on it, only because I had a whistle spare and I thought, what can I do with it? And actually, you know what, if there is a track down there and I have a major bleed, if I think that I'm trying to stop the bleed, what I can be doing is blowing on this whistle to maybe try and get some help. But and I'm still building up this kit. I need to get another bag, a bigger bag for it. So in here I've got some packing, some dressing. What I really want to get is some compressed gauze, is stuff that I'm hoping to get fairly soon. But the first thing that needs to go onto there is a tourniquet. I mean, I haven't opened this one. I need to practice with this. I need to get it out and try it on and just get familiar with using it, particularly getting used to using it with my left hand, so assuming my right hand's got the cut, and can I get this onto my arm just above the bleed, just with one hand. You need to be very cautious, I think, when you put this on, and I would certainly think twice about whether I'm going to use this. But if it's an arterial bleed, then this is going to be the first thing that I need to get on. The next thing I've got in here is, and it's Israeli bandage, great for applying some pressure, get some elevation going. Again, you need to watch a video on how to do that. It tears open very easily. It's in a sterile packing, but I think I'm going to unpack it and reset it such that the padding is the first thing I can get hold of, and I'll then put it into a different bag, just so that as soon as I get it out, I can put it straight on and start applying pressure. And then again, look online how to use them. Watch videos a few times. When I get this out, I'm going to have a little look, make sure I'm familiar with it, and then that will go back away into the pack. And then all I've got after that is a load of dressing. I've got a wound compression thing in there, a load of dressings, a bit of tape, and what I'm also going to get is some compressed gauze. So I've got to upgrade this a little bit, but I think it's really important to keep this sort of thing. If you're on your own, you're in the woods. Right, set up at last. Yeah, there's someone in that house over there, so probably need to keep the light down a little bit, because I think the upstairs windows will be able to see the light from here, just about maybe. So I'll have to keep the light down a little bit. I'll probably put you down there, but we're going to get the fire going now, and then get the food on. It's an amazing lookout over there. It's going to be fantastic waking up in the morning and just lying here and just looking out over the forest, nice and warm in my superior gear. Yeah, so much easier just putting this up, but I left it all a little bit late. To be quite honest, the whole thing has been a bit of a rush. It's felt like a real rush to get everything done, get the wood done. Trying to get this tarp up in the rain was a bit of a pig. Yeah, let's light the fire. It is getting cold now. This wind is really bringing the cold in. There we go, no messing. Cotton wool lighter. I'm not messing around tonight. I'm just hoping it picks up and it's not too wet. I might chuck the fatwood on there. There's a little bit of fatwood in there already. I'm just hoping this softwood will get going first, and then I can get some of that wetter hardwood on later on once it starts getting hot. But yeah, it's a little bit nervous, but we'll see. Not messing around tonight. Just let's get this fire going. I'm starting to get a bit cold now. Okay, the lamb has got a little bit burnt. It's going to be nice inside, but it's got burnt on the outside. Unfortunately, the oil that was in there caught fire with so much flame. Everything else looks like it's pretty much done. It looks gross. I think it will taste lovely. I'm not a cook.
Listeners ahead of the curve, they're going to be fine. They're going to have the best chance of getting through this.
Oh, that little burnt taste is great as well.
That's right, only one. How crazy is that? I mean, you want to talk about a consolidation of power? I mean, but this is, we're going to, I mean, obviously. And then it gets worse than that, because if you look at these derivative bets, they're all leveraged. People are playing with multiples on their cash, whether they can lose way more than their initial investment. So, I mean, it's just so astronomical. To get your head around something like this, it's you need.
I actually asked this out.
Wow, this thing is just fatwood.
Real issue on the market.
Look at it, there you go, down to fatwood straight away.
Come apart so fast.
Beautiful.
So, because everyone's going to run to the door at the same time. It's always the same story. This is why, for example, if you're just looking at stock XYZ,
there you go.
Stock XYZ can take 3 years to go
that
from
is
X
just
to Y, and
fatwood.
then from Y back to X.
Oh, I'm getting good at hunting fatwood.
3 years to a month. I mean, that's
yeah, I'm going to take that back with me.
Everyone wants out. Everyone wants no buyers.
Beautiful. Right.
And all of a sudden,
that's coming home, and we'll do a bit more fatwood hunting in the morning.
So just get rid of it.
Beautiful.
And drives markets down so fast, unfortunately. But I think we're going to see more of that. I mean, today was interesting. If you watched the Fed decision, I don't know if you got.
Yeah, but it's not even just the major countries. We also see this pattern happening.
That is a roaring fire. This is really cozy in here. This hammock is just the dog's bollocks. I mean, it really is the dog's bollocks. The wind is coming in from that direction. There's no way I need to worry. I don't need to worry about the underquilt or anything else. The wind getting in there in the middle of the night. Not even interested. Got the wind protector on as well. Just real cozy. Absolutely loving this. And in the morning, I'm going to wake up and I'll look out there, and there's just going to be this amazing forest, looking down over the forest. Absolute brilliance. Right, I'm going to go to sleep now, and I will see you in the morning. What's this? Oh, got a label. I have a label. Okay, right, too many beers. Let's see you in the morning. Bye. It is great waking up in the morning and just looking down out over the forest. Beautiful, what a night. I mean, really blowy, no rain at all, just really blowy. But this thing held out really nicely. I'm surprised it got no rain, so I think we're good. That's a dry top going into the bag. Fire was brilliant, but it was too windy really for me to get any good warmth from it. I don't think I gained much. I got into the hammock fairly early on because it just started getting cold, and I forgot my stool. But yeah, lovely and warm in here. This is a real test for this hammock. The amount of winds coming over, it was whipping over. I could feel the cold. As soon as you put your hand up, you could feel the cold. But this just kept all that lovely warmth right under my butt. Would you believe that it started raining? So just as I was packing up my hammock, you could hear the drizzle coming down. So this is going to have to go home and get hung out now. That's it. That's a shame. Bloody typical, that is. Right, that's me done. Hope you enjoyed the little video. If you've got sharp objects, just consider a good first aid kit and just have a little bit of a think about where you're going to go and what your plan is once you do stop the bleeding. But yeah, learn the kit, get some kit, particularly if you're on your own. Makes me very nervous, and I've always carried some kit with me, but it's always been pretty mediocre, and I didn't really understand how to use it. And it's only the last few weeks that I've really sort of been digging into it. So I definitely, after watching, I definitely now think that it's the right thing to be doing, particularly if you're out on your own. Camp is, yeah, I was a little bit devastated when I got back with all that blown down, but I'm definitely going to come back here. But I'm going to come back here on a day trip, and I'm just going to build a fire break or something like that around the fire, because that was really affecting it last night. So I'd like to do that, build a bit of a fire break, and then tidy all this lot up, do something with that wood, get some wood chopped, and yeah, quite like these little camps. I think they're quite reasonable. You know, it's Forestry Commission place. I don't think anyone cares. I think people clearly come here with kids and they've got swings all over the place. So I got no issues with it personally. I was a little bit nervous with the wind last night, but because of a couple of those trees that are right down there, they're going to give way on the water side. So they were going to basically head my way. So a little bit nervous there. Got a bit of Fatwood, had a lovely fire, had a meal which looked awful but actually tasted gorgeous. So right, I am off. Take care, see you next time.